Okay. Coastal-Burwood-Linwood. Please, Paul and Jackie. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Tēnā koutou katoa, Mr Mayor, councillors. Thank you for hearing our submission on the 2023-24 annual plan. The Waitai Board commends staff and council for a practical response to significant change in macroeconomic conditions, but we do express concern that there will be little headroom in financial years 25-26. Delaying hard decisions using one-offs will mean the long-term plan will likely be fraught. We would not want to see any revenue generating assets sold or partially sold to get over the bump on the road. Christchurch City Council stands virtually alone as having maintained ownership of assets like the Port, Airport and Orion. There was great pressure post-earthquake to sell or partially sell assets, but the council wisely chose another course, which was to A, reduce the capital program to a deliverable level. The original capital program had about $500 million of undeliverables in it, and B, to use the portfolio companies to borrow and deliver high dividends. Every long-term plan, the merchant banks and private equity funds circle like vultures, looking to get hold of our natural monopolies, trying to take advantage of the latest challenges. This year and the coming LTP are no different. It's my view that the aim should always be in our plans to deliver what we say we will or more, rather than to overpromise and underdeliver. So we'll now just work through and underline some of the key aspects of our written submission.
Good morning, everyone. Just in relation to the Uniform Annual General Charge, we support Alternative B, setting that at a lower rate. And while we appreciate this does take away from council income, our board area does take in a large number of people living in a low socio-economic situation. And while when you look at things like in a dollar figure, it may not appear to be very much when you actually start adding on the $5 here, the $20 increase in this, and every $5 actually does count in that regard.
We also support extending the use of the city vacant differential rating in the commercial zone areas of New Brighton, Littleton, Sydenham and Linwood Village. These areas all have master plans that are being undermined by a few landowners. It's unfair for landowners to hold up the regeneration of our suburban villages. It's been over 12 years. If they don't wish to develop the land, then they should sell it to someone who will for the common good of those villages.
The board also supports the increasing of the water allowance to 900 litres. We have a lot of families, larger families living in single dwellings. We have a lot of families with young children and special needs children. And also I don't feel there should be any penalising people for actually trying to grow their own vegetables gardens now and save money by doing that, by actually charging for them for the water to do so.
The board particularly supports the following capital program projects. The South Shore Estuary Edge project, we would like to see it advance as consenting allows. The QE2 master plan, the board supports implementation of the plan but would like to prioritise the playground and the number 2 car park. And if need be, to use funding left over from the partial sale of QE2 land to make sure that these things are not delayed. So there is actually money available there. And the New Brighton public realm improvements in bringing some of this forward to the financial year 23-24 as proposed. In particular, the Pages Road Bridge, ancillary works in the Waitaki Storm Basin, which all go together, should not be delayed. They should be advanced as design and consenting allows. The bridge is the most important tsunami evacuation route and it needs to be done urgently. We know, Mr Mayor, that you are familiar with the flooding in this area and the impact on road users, bus users, pedestrians and cyclists, as well as the loss of amenity for the entry to New Brighton. So if these projects can be advanced more quickly, it's vital that they are.
We're also looking to support keeping the 100k for the Otakaro Avon MCR. We feel that may be able to continue to be done with the delay of the wheels to wings. It could be be switched over, make sure that that goes ahead. And that also feeds into the Aranui Streets for People project that we're in favour of. And you're all well aware of my views on the organics processing plant. So I would please endorse that that is not deferred in any way and that you advance that project as quickly as possible.
We are pleased to see that there is a lot of investment going into the wastewater treatment plant and bringing that back up to standard. We also request that the Burwood-Maireho intersection should not be deferred. This intersection was not designed for the increased size and use of Burwood Hospital, and it should be upgraded soon. The board asks that properties earmarked for disposal are prioritised for social housing in general, and we think the land should remain in public ownership. In particular, the board suggests that the Sandilands and McGregor's Road properties should only be divested to Ototahi Community Housing Trust or Kainga Ora. If not, the land should only be leased rather than sold for housing use. We would also be keen to have the Paranurus Road and Woolston parcel, which is unsuitable for housing, be used for green space or urban forest. We are very pleased to have so many craft projects in our area and look forward to them commencing as soon as possible. We'd just like to draw particular attention to two projects that affect local schools: the Linwood Ave School slip lane, which is a significant safety issue, and the Te Aratai College pedestrian and cycle access. And just a short process note around craft: we would like to be able to keep track of where the projects are in the pipeline and to be able to keep a line of sight over them. I'm unsure why a number of funded shovel-ready projects are yet to begin. And I'd just like to support, the board supports the Waihoro Spray and Cashmere Heathcote Community Board's bid to prevent delay of the South Library repair. Because in the past, that board has supported delaying that project so that projects in the east in our area could be prioritised in recognition of the extra burden of earthquake damage in our area. In fact, I was actually the chairperson of that board when we argued in our LTP submission in 2015 that Spraddon and Heathcote should delay the repair of the library so that projects in the east could be advanced.
And just to finish off, we would like to flag the following for the long-term plan. The Marston's Hall Trust has, that community has raised a lot of funds and so on for the building of a community centre, and that will need a top up from council. That is a very important facility for that community. So that's one thing. Also, the fantastic concept for the new Brighton Mall will need funding going forward, and that's an important thing for that area, as is the Oramav extension. Both of those projects are vital to the concept of regenerating what's going on in New Brighton Mall. Thank you.
In conclusion, we'd like to commend councillors and staff on a prudent and practical annual plan in inflationary circumstances. We'd obviously like to see some tweaks as the community board representing the east, and we're especially keen that every effort is made to speed up projects such as the Pages Road Bridge, Waitaki Storm Basin and the organics processing plant, the closure and relocation of that. We'd be happy to take questions now if you have any.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Timothy.
I just want to say thank you for your support with the South Library, acknowledging, and I know you were the chair at the time, of our delaying its repair for other communities, so thank you.
No problem.
Sarah and then Yanni.
Thanks so much. I'm just interested in the expansion of the differential out into the suburban areas. We've got a submission from someone who does own a property in one of the village areas, and has submitted against it, saying that the problems in those areas are quite different to the ones in the central city, and that central city businesses, before this was implied, actually had a lot of additional support to try and get things off the ground from council first, and thinking that the type of developers in those smaller ones tend to be smaller owners that are less wealthy, those kind of things, than the ones in the CBD. Land value is less, and so is asking for a more collaborative approach rather than a punitive one, when council have been so enabling, even putting millions of dollars into rebates and things in the central city, and why weren't we doing that as an approach first in those suburban areas, rather than getting, you know, very quick, cheap builds, but getting the right outcomes in the suburban areas?
Unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, the behaviour of, like, we use New Brighton as an example, the behaviour of certain landowners has been anything but collaborative and that, you know, council have tried to be collaborative. So my sort of gut instinct, if you like, is to say that 12 years is long enough, and that we just need to get on and provide incentives one way or another.
But we haven't tried incentives in the suburbs at all. We did financial incentives in the central city. It was just something to raise, and I know that there's one developer in your area who's really concerned about this.
Councillor, I guess I am aware of enough cases of just intransigence.
Yeah.
And we would be providing incentives to people who are just being, a lot of them, not all of them, that are just being intransigent. And
I mean, the incentives would only be if they actually did anything.
Pardon?
They would only kick in if they actually did anything, though. Yeah. And sometimes, sometimes it's worked in the central city and sometimes it hasn't. Yeah.
Not right now. Yanni?
Thank you. I just wasn't clear from your submission. Just three questions really. One is in regards to the housing. I appreciate that you've said that you want us to sell it to certain housing providers. Are you saying that we should make it the sale of land conditional on requiring public housing be retained in that on those locations, or are you simply not worried about that as long as the people that buy it are able to use the money if we sell it to them and then they can sell it for housing somewhere else?
Well, speaking for myself, because I can't, haven't really gone into the nuance of this on the board discussion, but the reason why we picked those two organisations because they are public housing providers. So, I mean, I guess you could put a caveat on it, but the outcome we're wanting is more housing in public ownership provided to people who need it. And that doesn't necessarily mean there needs to be a caveat on the sale.
Right, so you'd be comfortable with us selling it to those housing providers and then them selling it off as long as the money went back into...
As long as the net outcome was more housing.
Yeah, sorry, Jan, we've only got 2 minutes left, and you got Mel, and I haven't got time for you. Sorry, Celeste. Mel?
I just wanted to ask about the two properties you mentioned about retaining. I just wondered if there's community interest in them or sort of what's brought them up.
So there's the sandy lands, the ones...
there's two, Palinurus Road, is it?
Palinurus Road is like it's essentially council doesn't know why we own it, but it's not a site that would be suitable for housing. It's essentially on the edge of State Highway, and it would be, currently it's being used for free for grazing, and there's no arrangement there. So the use of it would be ideal for some kind of urban forest if we're going to increase our tree canopy.
In Union and Collingwood Street.
The Plunkett rooms. We didn't mention this in the oral submission because there are discussions underway.
Okay.
Okay. No, thank you. I'm sorry we've run out of time. Well, all right then.
Quick, Celeste.
Yeah,
quick.
please.
Yeah, just take my time. No, just joking. Thanks for the presentation. In terms of the other sort of issues, say within some of the suburban areas, Linwood and New Brighton in particular, would you support a similar kind of approach, whether it's a mix potentially of incentives, but also looking at a rating increase around derelict buildings? Because I know that this currently only is focusing on land, and we also have a problem with buildings that are in a poor state.
Well, in principle, yes, but not having discussed that with the board.
And just the final thing is around the major cycle route. In relation to Pages Road Bridge, I'm aware that in terms of getting out in a tsunami situation would require a lot of people getting out of their cars onto bikes. So what's your view on making sure that the Pages Road Bridge repair and replacement gets tied into the major cycle route in terms of the planning?
Well, I mean, we need it to be as easy as possible for people to get out, so yes.
Thank you very much. Spot on. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we've got Bridget.